All right, y'all, welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper, and I'll tell you what, when you're a guest in my house, you're gonna abide by my rules, and if I don't like what you're saying or what you're doing, I'm gonna kick you out. I might even permanently ban you from my presence on my property, from my house, and have nothing to do with you. You show up at my gate, I might never let you in again. And I tell you the truth, that is absolutely a option that I have because I am the one who owns this property, this house, and I'm the one who has rule and reign over it. If you want to do whatever you want, exercise your freedom somewhere else, go for it. But here you're going to abide by my rules as a guest on my property and in my home, or I'm going to either A, silence you and tell you to quit saying what you're saying, or B, I'm going to kick you out and maybe even permanently ban you from my property and from my home. I have the authority to do that because this is my property and this is my house, this is my homestead, and that's just something that I can do. So why do I say something like that? Part of what we've got to understand, you look at something like Facebook, you look at something like Twitter, you look at something like YouTube, you are a guest on those sites and on those platforms, which means if they want to censor you, they can. It's not your home. You may have your own username, you may have your own page on there, but they're allowing you that opportunity. So if they don't like what you're saying, they're going to silence you. If they don't like what you're saying over and over again, they may kick you off and permanently ban you or even ban your IP address so that you're not allowed back on. You essentially are a guest in their home, if you will. I'll tell you what, I do not like it either. I believe in free speech. I believe we should be able to say what we want. And it's interesting too, like you even look at something like the White House YouTube page, they disabled comments a while ago. And the White House, everyone's swearing an oath to uphold the, freedom of speech, the First Amendment, the Constitution, all of that. And then they're not allowing people to even share their ideas beneath it. Kind of a level of hypocrisy there, but again, the White House YouTube page is free to do that. And if YouTube doesn't like what the White House is up to, they can ban the channel, shut it down, do whatever they want. People can lose all their content if they don't have it backed up. If the only place you're storing it is YouTube, they can take that away. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is where I'm kind of going with this, too many people spend too much of their time interacting online. They interact in the digital, and they don't spend enough time interacting in reality. In reality, we have the freedom to do whatever we want. Now, again, there's certain laws from God that we can choose to obey or not. There's certain laws from man that we can choose to obey or not. But when we don't obey, there's consequences for them. However, I can do and say whatever I see fit. That's reality. The problem that I have is so many people interact so much online and then they try to carry that over into reality. If your primary interaction with others is on YouTube or is on Facebook or is on Twitter, where you have community guidelines, which are often vague, but you are censored and you can only say certain things, you're not allowed to say other things, the problem is that when people get out into reality, they put that same muzzle on themselves and they expect others to do the same. There's a reason why, as much as I'm kind of a citizen of another kingdom, not really of this world, there's a reason why I still appreciate a constitutional republic. Okay? The Constitution says that we have certain rights. Personally, I don't like calling them rights. I like calling them freedoms because a right can kind of almost have the undertone that if you don't exercise your rights, that's wrong. And there's plenty of things that you're free to do, which are also wrong. There's plenty of rights you have that can also be wrong, based on what's legal in this country these days. And like, just for instance, sure, I have the freedom to vote. You can say I have the right to vote, but it's not wrong if I don't vote. If I don't exercise my freedom, that's in no ways wrong to just not vote. And, I once had somebody comment on one of my videos and they said, wow, this guy's probably got a Biden sticker on his bicycle. Obviously, it was probably the only video they ever saw from me that have a clue about some of the moral convictions I have, some of the ways I live my lifestyle that doesn't exactly line up with a traditional Biden supporter. But I replied back and said, LOL, to think I would support a politician. from my point of view, it's hilarious to think that I'm going to support a politician and put my trust in a man. Just going to throw that out there. So anyway, one thing that people should remember, and I do not like the fact that through the programs on television, the programming, and the things that are put out also on plenty of approved YouTube channels and main media outlets, is you hear people over and over again talk about our democracy, our democracy, our democracy. And think about it for a minute. Democracy is just mob rules. Whatever the majority says, that's a green light. That's actually kind of wicked. That's actually kind of wicked. And that's why I like a constitutional republic, because even if the majority votes to take away your life, you still have the right to life. Even if the majority votes to silence you, you still have freedom of speech. Even if the majority votes to take away your opportunity to gather, you still have the right to peaceably gather, to peaceably assemble. So that's where, at a constitutional republic, that Constitution and these inalienable rights from our Creator stand in the gap between the government and the people, or the majority of the people and the minority of the people. If you really want to protect minorities, you need something like a constitutional republic, because otherwise the majority is just going to vote to oppress the minority, and that's dangerous. So a couple tips I'm going to throw out there right now. Number one, remember that when you're somewhere like somebody else's platform, you are in essence a guest in their home. And just like I have certain things that I approve of in my home and certain things I reject in my home and say that's not allowed, and I can treat people according to such when they're guests in my home, so can these platforms. If you have platforms that lean incredibly one way and want to silence the opposition, just know that while you're in there, you're either not going to be able to speak freely as the opposition, or if you do, you may be penalized for it. Understand that. And then also remember that when you're outside of that realm, once you leave their home, just like if I say you're not allowed to do that on my property and I kick you off my property, you can go do that. It's just not here. So once you unplug from the digital, unplug from the internet, from the being caught in the World Wide Web, and you go back to reality, just remember that in that realm, you can do as you see fit. You can say what you want. You can do what you want there, and you're allowed to. So don't just start giving up some of your freedoms because you're being trained and conditioned to spend so much of your time in the digital that then when you get out into reality, you don't even do that anymore because you've been conditioned not to exercise those freedoms. And that kind of brings me to where we're progressing. Think about where we're progressing. Think about this metaverse. Think about where they want people working and communicating and living in this digital realm. I don't know if you guys have ever seen virtual reality clips where people have the virtual reality glasses on, you know, the VR goggles, and they're playing some game and they're in the virtual realm and then they just run into a wall or they smash their TV or they do this or do that. It's hilarious to watch sometimes.
Just do it.
우리들.
Help your wife! Help your wife! Exactly. Look down, Ben! Ben, look down! Look down! I think she passed out!
But in all the hilariousness, it's also dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because the real person in the real realm is being affected by what they're seeing in the digital, by what they're seeing in this unseen, unreal realm that only exists in that little headset, in those goggles, with those glasses on. And there could be a lot of consequences. So here's the thing too, they're gonna want people, it seems, to start spending more and more time in interaction for business meetings, perhaps for working, for interacting with others, their friends and family and stuff, to be in this digital realm called the metaverse. Again, You're leaving reality where you're free to do something, and especially in this country, protected or supposedly protected by the Constitution and the constitutional republic that we are, because we're not a democracy. And then you're going to leave that real realm to go be a guest in somebody else's home, where again, everything that you're up to is going to be under a different scrutiny because you've left reality. I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the fact that one of the ways I try to provide for my family is to provide digital content and to be here on YouTube, on Steemit, on Hive, doing other things online, selling things through Etsy, and publishing things, offering up some of our books, which you can, find on the internet and buy. If it wasn't for that, I long for a power outage for years. I long for that just to be taken away, that I could just spend more time in the woods with my animals, with my feet and my hands in the soil, living in that realm, back to reality. Because this is not ideal. I'm one of those guys who would rather talk to you face to face than have a phone call. Okay? I would rather do that. I'd rather talk to you face to face than write a letter or send a text. I like real interactions where you can see the person, you can see what they're up to, you can read them. A lot of stuff gets lost in translation with emails and texts all the time. In fact, you should see, I'll probably insert the clips. I tried to kind of flirt with my wife with an emoji. I sent her a picture that was a man and a woman with a heart between them. My phone, connecting with her phone, somewhere along the lines, her phone received that as a text message of what looks like two dudes with a heart between them. That is not the message that I wanted to send my wife, but because I wasn't interacting in reality and I was trusting something digital to convey that message accurately, it's not just even, that you can't get the words and tell if they're sarcastic or if they're serious or whatever. It changed the picture I sent because her phone didn't recognize that picture as that. It recognized it as something else. Imagine if I was a young man. Imagine if I had a girlfriend and I also had a friend. And my friend goes, "Hey, were you going to hang out with your girlfriend tonight or were you going to come over here?" And I tried to send him the picture of me with a lady and a heart between them making kissy faces. And he gets a picture of two dudes with a heart between them. He's going to get a whole different message and be like, "Whoa, dude, what? I thought you had a girlfriend." Than the message that I was trying to give him of, "Hey, I'm going to head over her direction." That kind of was very interesting when I saw that happen. I did not expect that, yet it's exactly what happened. Very strange. So be careful. It happened to me, between me and my wife. It could have been a lot worse. She's sitting over there like, "Why in the world are you sending me this picture?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Because I love you." And she goes, "That's not me. I'm not some dude. I'm your wife." So be cautious of things like that. And I know a lot of people have been talking and discerning and conversing, and I would just kind of add that, remember, you have freedoms. You have God-given freedoms too. He's given you free will. You don't even have to choose to obey him or do anything that he wants you to do. That doesn't take away morality or the reality of that, but you have a lot of freedom. And what happens is they're going to want to corral you and take away your freedoms. Take away your right to choose, take away your right to speak up, and put you in this little box, which is a cage. These days, less of it happening in reality at the moment, but a lot of it happening digitally. Who's ever wound up in Facebook jail, as they call it? Who's ever wound up being, banned from YouTube, getting a copyright strike or getting some sort of community guideline strike, and then you have to wait for a while. You can't get access back to your account. It happens to people, and a lot of the people are like, "Well, what did I do wrong?" And they get something back that just says, "Oh, you violated our community guidelines." I'm like, "Well, how? Tell me what I'm doing wrong and I can stop when I'm a guest in your house." But even that sometimes is too much for them to actually tell you what you did wrong. They just don't like you exercising your freedom that way. And I believe that the carrot dangling out there right now is, "Oh, come to the metaverse. We're going to prepare it for you. It's going to be so much better." But I doubt it. I doubt it. Personally, you're not going to find me there. Personally, if stuff gets too oppressive on my phone, in my computer, other places, I'll have a personal exodus. I have no problem shutting that down. Now, I do like the interaction that I have with you guys. I do appreciate giving you guys a glimpse into our life. A lot of people appreciate our lifestyle. A lot of people appreciate the way we raise our children. Dogman Homestead just sent out a thing to all of his followers saying, hey, you might want to check this guy out. And he had some really kind things to say. I really appreciate that. I thought that was awesome. And that's one of the reasons I like this. I've also met a lot of great people through here. But if we're supposed to meet and this is taken away, we'll meet up in reality where we can do and interact as we see fit. Again, I have domain over my house. I have domain over my property. I have domain over my physical reality, me being a person. But once I go online and use somebody else's platform to say certain things, I've given up certain freedoms that I have. And I am now a guest in their home. Watch out as we continue with certain things. I never went on Facebook in the first place. I think I had a Twitter, I had an Instagram, don't really use those things anymore. Continue with YouTube, continue with Steemit, continue with Hive, but I'd be cautious when I'm interacting on things like YouTube. I guard my mouth. Google owns YouTube now. You know, we have to remember who we're dealing with. We have to remember, or at least be aware of their objectives and goals. If you're not sure what they're up to, look at their actions. That'll testify a lot of who they are. And I'll tell you what, sometimes when the glass gets spilled, whatever is inside it come out. You know, I don't know if you guys have heard that saying before, but it's pretty much whatever's in that cup is going to come out when it gets spilled, when it gets bumped. I bumped myself on the head pretty good the other day. That's where this came from. Things do not always go according to plan. Ouch. I thought it was so beautiful that what happened is I said, ouch, ow. Those are the words that came out of my mouth. Ouch and ow. Those are pretty universal, at least across North America, expressions of pain. It hurt, so I said ow, and I said ouch. I thought that was so awesome because it showed me what's inside my glass. It shows me that when I get bumped, ow, that's what happens. Just an accurate, honest profession with my mouth of the reality I'm dealing with. I was in pain. I said ouch. I said ow. So many people, if they get bumped like that or they get cut off in traffic or something else happens, they either A, curse God or his son, our Savior, and they use his name and blasphemously, or they spew a bunch of filthy, nasty, wicked, evil words. Tell you what, they'll do it in front of their children too. I was at the store the other day. A lady said, ouch, what happened to your head? And I said, oh, I smacked it with some stuff. I said, you know what the coolest part was, though? Because I was rejoicing. I thought that was so cool. It just shows me I'm not who I once was. And the guy who I was, 15 years ago, way different these days. And I said, yeah, that happened. And I said, ouch, and I said, ow. And she says, what a good example for your children. And at least two of them, Monster Truck and Red Pepper, were right there. Imagine if it would have been a bunch of cursing God, blaspheming him or his son, or a bunch of just wicked words I shouldn't be saying in the first place. Imagine the example I'd set for them. Again, I am free to do so. And there's appropriate times to restrict yourself, even in reality when you have those freedoms. That's why I don't like calling them rights, because a lot of times it's not wrong if you don't. It's not wrong if you don't. So I throw that out there, guys. Be careful as we move forward. Exercise your freedoms. Remember who you are. Discern the level that you should be interacting online and in reality. And remember that once you leave somebody else's home, like the digital, you again re-enter the opportunity to do as you see fit with your actual freedoms, because you're no longer a guest in their home. And if you get kicked out of their home, then you can, do as you see fit outside that realm. But we need to worry more about the physical, less about the digital, less about the online, more about the offline. And don't raise your kids online either. Make sure they understand reality. There's so many kids, you could turn them loose in so many marvelous places on this world in physical reality. I'm bored. I want to go like this all day. And there's other kids you turn loose, they would never get bored for years. At least let your kids know how to interact with the real world, because that's where they really live. Again, I hope this has been a blessing for you guys. If there's stuff I missed that you'd like to comment on, carefully, you're a guest in somebody else's home. Leave those comments below. I thank you for watching. Got some other great stuff we're working on, and appreciate y'all. Be blessed. Papa out.